Episode 2. If you haven't watched the first episode yet, I advise you to watch it first to understand the events of the story. You will find the first episode in the description, or in the channel. There were invisible forces pursuing them, and I realized that the pharaonic curse had been unleashed. The scene was terrifying, but I couldn't move. I felt as if my feet had frozen to the ground. At that moment, I knew I was in big trouble. I was at the heart of an ancient curse, and I didn't know how I would get out of there. But, amidst the chaos of events, I managed to escape the room before it completely collapsed. I returned to the surface, my breath ragged and my heart racing. I didn't know what I should do. I wanted to flee from this place and return to my old life, but I knew I had crossed the point of no return. I was committed to finding a way to lift this curse, as I was involved in it one way or another. The next day, I met a strange man who seemed to know a lot about mysterious matters. His name was Jacob, and he was a 106-year-old sorcerer. He told me that he knew the only way to lift the curse, but the price would be high. I had to go to an ancient cave located deep in the desert, where it is said to contain the Pharaoh's water of life, which is said to have the ability to heal wounds and lift curses. But reaching this cave was not an easy matter. Jacob told me that the road to it was filled with ancient traps set by the Pharaohs to protect the water of life from the greedy. These traps were designed in a mysterious and complex way, so that only someone who knows the ancient secrets could pass through. I was hesitant, but I had no choice. I had crossed the point of no return, and I couldn't escape now. Either I continued searching for the water of life and managed to lift the curse, or I remained haunted by the ghosts that emerged from the old room beneath the pyramid. Jacob also told me that I would not be alone on this journey. There were 2 others from the group that cast the curse who survived, and they were also looking for a way to lift it. One was named Marcus, an Italian with dark hair and sharp features, and the other was named Karim, a young Egyptian with wide eyes that seemed to hold a mysterious power. We agreed to work together, even though trust was non-existent among us. Each of us had our own goals, but we were forced to cooperate, at least until we obtained the water of life. We began our journey the next day at dawn. We had to walk through the desert, taking paths known to only a few. Jacob gave us an old map, engraved on deer skin, containing cryptic instructions on how to reach the cave. There were signs and symbolic drawings that I didn't fully understand, but Karim seemed to know some things about these symbols. He said they represented stations along the way and carried meanings related to ancient pharaonic beliefs. After days of walking through the desert, amidst shifting sands and strong winds, we finally reached the entrance of the cave. Its door was partially obscured by rocks and sand, but as soon as we cleared them away, a dark entrance appeared, swallowing light. The cave looked like the mouth of an ancient beast waiting for its prey. We entered the cave cautiously and lit the torches we had brought with us. The walls were covered in ancient engravings, and I began to sense the presence of the traps that Jacob had mentioned. Every step was fraught with danger, and we had to be careful with every movement. With each step we took, I could hear strange sounds, as if the walls were breathing, or as if there were spirits watching us from the darkness. Suddenly, a trap opened beneath Karim's feet. It was a well-crafted trap, designed to close on its victim and trap them between the stone walls. Karim was quick enough to jump back before the trap completely closed, but he lost his balance and fell to the ground. We quickly pulled out the rope and dragged him out before the trap could close entirely on him. That moment was the first sign of the danger we were about to face. We continued to advance cautiously, and as time passed, fear began to creep into our hearts. We realized that if we made just one mistake, it could be our end. The path was filled with complex mechanisms that would activate as soon as one took an uncalculated step. We saw arches that shot poison arrows, and we saw walls closing at a terrifying speed to crush anyone in their way. As we delved deeper into the cave, the whispers began to intensify. They were faint sounds barely audible, yet they filled the air with a sense of tension and dread. The whispers seemed to come from within our minds, as if trying to instill fear and hesitation in us. After a period of cautious walking, we found ourselves in a large room, in the center of which stood a statue of an ancient pharaoh, holding a stone cup filled with a shiny golden liquid. It was clear that this was the water of life. But the room was not as safe as it appeared. On the walls were engravings depicting mysterious rituals, and we realized that we had to follow those rituals to reach the cup safely. We began by trying to understand the inscriptions, but time was not on our side. Suddenly, the room started to shake, as if something was approaching us. We realized that the curse was not just limited to the evil spirits we had unleashed, but that the place itself was designed to be a deadly trap. We started performing the ritual according to what we understood from the inscriptions, trying to avoid any mistake that could lead to our deaths. We were about to reach the cup, but at the last moment, Marcus made a mistake. He did not fully understand the final step of the ritual, and his action triggered a hidden mechanism in the walls. As soon as he made a mistake, the stone columns from the floor and walls surged forth with astonishing speed. These columns bore jagged spears, rushing toward Marcus at an unimaginable pace. He had no time to escape, and one of the spears pierced his chest directly. It was a terrifying scene. We couldn't even scream from the shock. Marcus fell to the ground, his blood staining the stone beneath his feet. His eyes were wide open, filled with astonishment and disbelief, but he was unable to speak. At that moment, I realized that this place showed no mercy for any mistake. The cave itself seemed to move against us, as if seeking revenge. We had no time to mourn Marcus. We knew that staying here any longer would lead to our own demise as well. With extreme caution, we completed the ritual correctly, and Kareem, who was the calmest among us in those moments, managed to reach the cup and take a sip. I felt the cave suddenly calm, as if it responded positively to the ritual. There was no doubt that the water of life was real and held unimaginable power. But the price we paid was steep. Marcus was dead, and we, the survivors, were in a state of shock. After drinking from the water of life, we felt a strange change in our bodies. Our hearts, which had been racing with fear and anxiety, slowly began to calm, and we felt a new energy fill us. The feeling was mysterious and hard to describe, but it was enough to know that we had survived the curse of the Pharaohs. As we exited the cave, the day had begun to wane, and the atmosphere was eerily calm. There was no trace of spirits or traps. We had passed the toughest test of our lives. But we knew that our adventure had left a deep mark on us that would never fade away. We returned to Cairo, where Abd al-Hakim was waiting for us. When we told him what had happened, he shook his head sadly and said, "Not everyone who seeks treasure returns with it, but you have now learned a valuable lesson." We offered him the water of life, and he told us that the curse had been lifted and that we could now return to our lives. I went back to Spain, returning to the shepherd's life I had lived before. But I was not the same person who had left the village in search of treasure. I had undergone an experience that changed me forever. I had learned that nothing comes easily, and that the price we pay in our pursuit of wealth can be very steep. I no longer dreamed of treasures. I was content with my simple life, happy with the peace I found in the embrace of nature among my sheep. However, even now, when I sleep under the stars, I cannot help but think of those mysterious nights in Egypt, of the spirits I saw, and of the treasure that was never just wealth, but a harsh lesson about life and death, courage and fear, and a fate from which there is no escape. The end. If you liked the story, support us by subscribing to the channel, and listen to more stories and novels on the North Stories channel.